Good afternoon once again. My name is Giulia Culina and I'm an executive within the policy department here at the Chamber. On behalf of everyone, I would like to thank you for joining today's webinar on cybersecurity, threats and preventative measures. As you may be aware, the Chamber has been organizing a few webinars in the past couple of months, and we are very excited to keep organizing more. And I hope that you please follow us on Facebook and all our other social media to find out what's coming. So now, just to give you a brief overview of what we're going to do today, we have Deputy President Marisa Schwirep joining us, who will be giving an intro speech, and Mr. Joseph Ajus, Chief Technology Officer at BOV, who will be sharing with us a presentation. I would like to give the ball to Marisa for her intro, please. So if you could just unmute yourself, please.
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon just now, 12:01. Thank you for joining us for this session about cybersecurity, threats and preventive measures. The COVID pandemic has shifted our businesses from within our offices to out on the web, basically. So we have most of our workers teleworking. We have a lot more dealings with customers that are happening over the web. And of course, this exposes us much more to cybercrime. The rate at which we have had to shift our businesses, which is as quickly as we possibly could, also renders us a little bit vulnerable in terms of how well our infrastructure can cope with these changes and how well prepared we are in terms of technology to be able to protect our business against cybercrime. One very important aspect of all this is the fact that the people working on our networks, our employees, as well as our customers, are in a more vulnerable situation in terms of cybercrime than they usually are. So we are all, at this point, 9 months down the line, the COVID pandemic. Psychologically, this takes its toll. And of course, it does render people a little bit more susceptible to opening the wrong attachments and clicking on the wrong emails and responding to phishing attacks and the like. So I think they are considerations that are very, very pertinent, especially at this point in time when we kind of maybe taking a little bit for granted the fact that we telework, the fact that we're doing everything on the web. And there are risks out there that we need to protect ourselves against. Mr. Joseph Ajus, who's Chief Technology Officer at Bank of Valletta, certainly has the knowledge and experience to give us some tips on how we can be better protected for cybercrime and what we need to look out for and what we need to invest in terms of technology and infrastructure. So without any more ado, I leave it all in the able hands of Mr. Joseph Ajus. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and on behalf of the Chamber and Bank of Valletta, I would like to welcome you to this morning's event, and I would like to thank the Chamber for giving me the opportunity to share with you these thoughts. Let's put some context on our presentation. 20 billion devices and increasing. The number of security flaws and vulnerabilities is also on the increase. The cost of cybercrime is in trillions, as you all read in the paper, and a number of days, and not small, 100+ days to spot an attack. So, with this context, and also as Marisa mentioned, the fact of COVID, cyber incidents and resulting in data loss, in system outages, and also reputational damage is a real concern. I believe it's also opportune that we're giving this to the Chamber of Commerce as well, to members of the Chamber of Commerce. It's very, very important to realize, if not already done so, is that cyber is not a technology issue. Although I come from a technology background, it's a business issue. So, as I said as well, from a COVID perspective, the acceleration of sophisticated attackers, the skills gap, working remotely and through a number of devices as well. So there is a diversity in our endpoint. It's not anymore standardized devices, but basically quite a number of mobile devices out there as well. Regulation and privacy, as well as the remote and mobile workforce. We had to change our ways of working and deliver more services electronically, as we all had to do. We probably did this also in record speed. Us as Maltese, we have this notion that this will not happen to us, we're different, but we also had, because the distances were small, probably remote or smart working, as it's being called today, it was not very prevalent as it is today. And the increase also in digitalization continues to accelerate. If you look at the sophistication of the attacks these days, and what I try to depict on this slide in there, from script kiddies in the past, these were, attempts which were unsophisticated. These were more for amusement and for the challenge. But during the years, then we've had hackers as well, which were more sophisticated. It was more a question of money and basically stealing money as well, or stealing services, or embarrassing organizations by defacing websites and so on, which continue to happen today. If you look at malicious insiders as well, either revenge or personal gain, as much as corporate espionage. And again, you are in business, you really need to protect the assets. Today, it's one of the major assets that each organization holds is the data that it has on its customers, on its business partners. So we really need to safeguard it. If we continue going up the scale, a lot of criminal networks, and we hear them, this gang, that gang, and also organized crime participating in these events because it's a lucrative business. So again, information assets to sell, compromise of credit cards and selling credit card numbers on the internet. Going up this scale, also state-sponsored attacks. So these are obviously a lot more comprehensive, a lot more for competitive advantage, and increasingly sophisticated and advanced threats. I'm sure that you probably also had events during the past where we talk also about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And this is the next generation also of malware, which uses AI and machine learning. It's the next threat level. So again, as much as we can utilize any tools for good, we can also use them also, or leverage them for criminal activities. So the sophistication of the malware as well, that the malware itself will adapt itself to learn and behaviorally change its actions according to these sophisticated tools like machine learning and artificial intelligence. If we look at the agenda today, and you thought we were almost done because that was the intro part. What is important is that we continuously evaluate how our existing defenses adapt to changing threats. We need to continuously assess our security posture. We we must become, as we've shown also during this pandemic, increasingly more resilient. And I will end this session with a few concluding remarks. If you look at the numbers, and I don't want to harbor a lot about the numbers, but according to reports, email remains the easiest way to breach an organization. I believe also in the intro, Marisa touched on phishing attacks, on cyber incidents involving phishing is 78%. You know, the numbers are not important per se as a statistic. However, they are important because they highlight the prevalence of such breaches. Losses coming from business email compromise, it runs into billions. So most breaches occur through known vulnerabilities. And according to the same report, incidentally, it's a Verizon report, 22% of organizations believe that phishing is the biggest threat as well. So, and this affects both small businesses and large organizations as well. Recent trends include ransomware, which is becoming increasingly popular also. Organization tempted to pay, provide customer support, sample decrypted files. So it's quite sophisticated. It's a big business, ransomware. And also like malware like macros, PowerShell, and tools which may be used again both for good and also criminal activities. Tools purchased a few years ago may have been effective, but it's important that we continuously assess the efficacy of such tools. Today, with cloud computing, with Internet of Things, the increasingly sophisticated software that we use, and there is no software with no vulnerabilities. We know we have major companies and major worldwide organizations delivering patches on a monthly basis and sometimes even more. And with COVID, these continue to increase. Identity theft is also something that we really need to watch out for as well, because you start by compromising, how should I say, not a sophisticated user within the organization, and through this person, we gain administrative access, and then obviously, as you all know, the damage that you can do with administrative access then is much more, is exponentially more than what you do with a normal account. I have a quotation here from Akamai, detected an average of 1.15 million attempts to use their accounts every day. Akamai provides also cloud services. So it's really important that we continuously assess our security posture. It's important that what used to work in the past may not necessarily work in the future. We need to pilot and assess also potential solutions and improve solutions, how we continue increasing barriers in our organization. We need to measure the efficiency of each solution, and we need to get feedback as well. So this continuous assessment will continue us to help us to discover any holes that we have and close these gaps. Investing in these KPIs and security control is a very sound investment. So let us not shrink. Obviously, we're working also with decreased budget. However, the security budget is not something that we dabble with. If we look at this, and I've put in a slide which is complex. The slide is from Gartner as well. So we look at the scope of the security assessment that we're trying to protect against. For example, email security, the list of technologies that we can use, user awareness, endpoint protection, endpoint detection and response, password managers. I've put a complex slide in here. a little bit on purpose. So the tools that we can use to protect even against email are varied, and we do not have potentially expertise in all of them. So this is not something which is easy. It's good if you're an organization like us and maybe other organizations who are attending the webinar who've got teams of people in this area. But it is increasingly sophisticated, it's increasingly complex. So even if you have a team, you need external assistance, let alone if you don't have a team. So this should not deter us from investing in security. What it is highlighting is that it is complex, and the more we share and the more we learn from what other organizations are doing, then the better we are protecting ourselves as well. "34% of breaches involve internal actors, but only 13% are malicious." As I said, software has vulnerabilities as well, and we can have also compromised users. So once an attacker has compromised the host, what the major action, or at least the most common action, is that we try and compromise an internal user, and then elevate the privileges to administrative privileges. So the harm that I can affect on an organization is obviously much bigger. Also today, as you know, with PSD2 and API, this is application programming interfaces. We want to interface to the bank, fintechs, also interacting either with banks and with third parties to provide a seamless experience to the customers. And API security is something which Gartner predicts that it will be most frequently abused in the future. So again, your security person within the organization needs to engage with the business as well. It should not be an office of no, especially also with increased digitalization, both before and this will not stop. It will continue after the pandemic, and we hope it will end soon. So these defense mechanisms are maturing. It's important that even in the applications that we build, we have security by design. So security should not be an afterthought. I finish my applications and then I get a third-party security company to basically find out any gaps in my application. It is important that security is by design, and the security expertise and the security assistance that I need, I'll start getting that from the beginning. So what is important also is that we have resilient organizations. A resilient organization, again, a definition from Gartner, rebounds and prospers after a business disruption, and it is resistant. If we are a resilient organization, so the risk management, it's important that we inbuild the concept of risk within the organizational culture. The way we respond, the way we recover, the contingency that we have, that will give us the resilience. It's important as well that as organizations, we have the necessary monitoring, and these days also solutions in this space can also be outsourced. However, the organization remains responsible for its assets. We need to prepare for adversaries which we cannot beat. If a nation state targets your organization, they will get in. So it's better to invest in prevention, although it's not necessarily, there is no 100% security. So again, for the business people and also the technical people, I'm sure that the technical people cannot be will not give the assurance of 100%. 100%, unfortunately, in this kind of, in cyber is impossible. But what is important is that we have multiple layers of defenses. So in here, I've put in a few points of resilient organizations as well. A resilient organization, if you are prepared as a resilient organization, then you can take decisions quickly because you're prepared. As much as possible, operate from dispersed locations as well. This may be more appropriate for larger organizations. Smaller organizations, it is obviously more difficult. It's important that we empower our workforce and we foster the diversity of our workforce. As leaders of organization, it's important that we're behind these programs as well. And risk management. Both the regulators, especially for banks and larger organizations, the regulators are putting a lot of emphasis on mitigation, what operational risk, and also other risks that your organization has. It is important that you engage with your board and you speak their language. Once again, as I've started, cyber is a business issue. It's not only a technology. And it is important that it is in the investment that we're doing as well, is we show the benefits of the investments that we're doing in organizations, in our organization as well. So the way we're spending our money is also demonstrated by what we are safeguarding the organization against. It's important that a resilient organization is communicative, collaborative, cooperative, and creative. There's no prizes for collaboration. There is a lot, and there are also national organizations that help in the collaboration because we can share experiences as well. This is not just it should not be used as a competitive advantage, more of a competitive advantage as a nation and as a country rather than the individual organization. Is no one benefits if an organization, not even a competitor or organization, will benefit if an organization is compromised. And more than anything else, and this probably applies to us Mediterraneans or Mediterranean countries, we embed resilience in the culture of the organization. And that is really, really important. This is not something that we need to continue foster and we need to continue building. From my concluding remarks, we know we're all very busy. So from a concluding remarks point of view, it can happen to all of us. So it's important that we are prepared. If you have the expertise, it's important that you continue also training the organizations. And this is not only the technical people, but also phishing happens to anybody. Okay, and we receive hundreds of emails each day, and it's very easy to click on a link which you should not, or you open an email from an unknown recipient. We are bombarded through email these days. So the education comes at all levels of the organization, from your board, from your management, your employees, your customers as well, and both from a technical perspective and also from a non-technical perspective. Set up a security team. Now, this can either be internal or external. Again, a lot of companies that offer consultancy and also support for smaller organizations. And it's also due to the skills shortages that we have. Malta remains an island as well. So, and it's also a constantly changing landscape. As I've indicated also earlier, it's important that I have multiple layers of security. Okay, is one of us. So there is like a perimeter security, then there's also internal security, and you limit access also to employees who require the information. Yesterday, I had the pleasure to to attend a presentation also on a major organization, global multinational organization that are providing cloud services. And you'll be surprised the multiple layers of security and the segregation of duties. So what we have learned in the past, we should not unlearn it now, but continue building on that. I cannot stress the importance of the multiple layers of security and also the patching. Is most of the vulnerabilities happen because we have not patched the software. I know it's a cost because patching is not like you're patching your home computer, because you need to patch and you need to test that your applications don't break, and there are applications that break after patching. However, it is really, really important as attackers use such vulnerabilities to compromise organizations. So patching is extremely important. Also the monitoring and the user device behavior. Again, we can use, especially for larger organizations, as well the behavioral analysis that will be able to indicate usage patterns. If a user always signs on from 8 o'clock in the morning till, I don't know what, till 8 o'clock at night, and now all of a sudden, my monitoring tools alert me that this person is signing on systems at midnight or during a weekend, and it is not a normal behavior. So this is where it's important that both the monitoring and also the user behavior is analyzed. As I've said previously, 100% is not possible, but the more barriers we have, the more difficult it is for any threat vector. So although we cannot guarantee 100%, we need to continuously improve our security posture. My last slide. What do you do today? What do you do in the near future? And what do you do in the longer term? Today, it's important that you educate your users and you test your existing controls for the more prevalent threats as well. What you should do in the near future, continuously assess systems and devices for the risk and trust. And also, you find out the gaps that you have and upgrade your existing security solutions. We cannot say that the products and the software that I've had in my security toolbox will remain good forever. And the patching, obviously, it also refers to also patching the security software even more than any others, as much as the operating system. In a longer term, improve resiliency against the attacks that you cannot prevent. So it's important that you're prepared. You have your disaster recovery plans, your contingency plans, your business continuity plans, and these need to be tested out periodically. Prepare your response and your recovery plans. I hope this is what I had prepared. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I will take these questions at this point.
Thank you very much, Joseph. If there are any questions, please direct them to the Q&A, and I will ask them to Joseph. In the meantime, I wanted to ask a few things myself. So we spoke about cybersecurity, and I wanted to get a little bit the bank's perspective in terms of what the bank is actually doing. Now, I know that you have an application which is very popular. I believe we had discussed this in previous webinars that we organized together with BOV. And I've noticed that, for instance, you can't take a screenshot when you pay someone, for instance. You can't take a screenshot to sort of prove that you paid them, and I'm pretty sure there are other things I haven't noticed myself. I don't know. I thought perhaps you can discuss this further, so participants can see what the bank is actually doing to remain secure for its clients.
As I said earlier on, before we release any solution to the public, like most organizations, we get this both internally and externally tested. We work also with international software organizations who are in these areas. And there are, as you rightly pointed out, on mobile banking, because you'll be surprised that attackers will also utilize screenshots from organizations like we see with for example, phishing sites, which they mimic, and they leverage the graphics and what you're displaying in your public website. So these are security measures that organizations take to safeguard against malicious attempts, and use that as evidence that it is being perpetrated, that it is coming from a bank or an organization of trust. As I said, Julia, in my presentation today, we lead very busy lives, and we're switching context, and we're switching between applications as well, and we're switching between tasks. So it's very easy to click on links and do not look for like the encryption and the whatever, because these are technical. We want to just execute transactions. So the bank takes security, as you know, very, very seriously. It doesn't mean that we're beyond reproach. We all know what happened also last year, regrettably. And that's where I said that's where it's important for organizations also to have the necessary business continuity plans and resilience to come back on our feet to continue delivering service.
I have a question regarding striking a balance between cybersecurity and functionality. And I'll give you one example that we're probably all familiar with. Emails from Bank of Valletta. I'm a customer. I receive emails from Bank of Valletta, and it's quite a procedure to open an email. And the procedure is you have to repeat every time you receive an email. And I've noticed that sometimes the key information is actually put in the subject by bank employees who are sending the email, presumably because they experience a lot of customers who do not bother to open these kind of emails. How can we strike a balance on this front?
When I talked about API security, I also spoke about that the security team should not be an organization of no, but it should work with the business to facilitate. I fully understand that at times the security, we take it a little bit too much as well. And I'm not only referring to the way the bank exchanges emails. It's obviously emails. It's a very insecure medium. This is like if I send you something in the post and it's whatever retrieved, I can open and read the information. So the bank, in the interest of security, safeguards this by making the process, and you as a customer will surely find it much easier to open an email from a colleague than opening an email from the bank. However, it is also important that because banks are a target, that banks also take the necessary precautions to safeguard customer information. I fully empathize with you that it's not the most straightforward application. Rest assured that we will be working on this. As I said, this is a continuous process to try and improve also the user experience and the balance between security and functionality.
There was a question in our Q&A, and I keep encouraging you to utilize it. We got a question: how can one prevent from phishing emails, as such threats can easily get its way throughout the company? And as an addendum to that, what should a company do if an employee accidentally clicks on the phishing link?
This is what I referred to earlier on as well, and phishing is quite prevalent. First of all, there are also solutions that before reaching an organization, you can send that email, direct that email to a third party. It is checked, and it is only delivered to the organization if it's found to be clean. So there are services out there like this sandboxing, which I had in that complex slide, was one of the software tools that we can use. So definitely sandboxing. This is from a prevention point of view. Again, it's a good investment that especially large organizations have. As a quick measure, if a person clicks on a link, it's important that you disconnect yourself from the network. So at least if the damage is done, the damage is done on one node rather than on the whole network. So that's a quick way of trying to safeguard the information. Today, enterprise detection and response software, it's called, these are EDR software, also have safeguards for phishing as well, and for example, malware or ransomware, because the ransomware works as you click on the link, it starts encrypting. So the EDR tool itself will realize that this is happening and it will stop it. So at least, again, you are limiting the damage on what can be done on the node, for organizations or larger organizations or technical people in the audience, it's important that you protect the shepherd and not the sheep. You can lose a sheep. This was a personal experience as well. You know, you cannot protect all the sheep, even though as believers we believe that we can. You cannot, but it's important that you protect your critical assets, and you categorize also your computing assets in different tiers as well. So if we lose a sheep, we can handle that, but if we lose the shepherd, the impact is much larger on organizations.
I believe there was a parable about that, correct?
True.
Yeah. We got a question that you might help me decipher. Do companies prefer paying up a company for ransomware and get their systems back to normal?
It depends. So the way ransomware works is that you receive a piece of software, a malware, most probably in a mail, and it starts encrypting your hard disk, and the information that you have, you cannot retrieve it. And it is true that companies end up paying for the ransomware to get the information back. But I would like to turn that around. And I would rather do the investment before so that it doesn't happen rather than have to pay up, because most probably paying up will be more expensive. And there are solutions again in this space to prevent against ransomware.
So you would suggest that doing a thorough risk assessment regarding one's security systems is vital for business continuity.
That's correct. And as was the theme, and Marisa also highlighted at the beginning, is we did a lot of work, which was fast. We excel in this. Is when there's adversity, we all pull together and we deliver solutions. So unless you did not do this, it's important also that these are services that you need to engage with at least on an annual basis, or when your application changes, or when your configuration and platform changes. So it's important, it's very, very important that these are periodically assessed, and then the gaps that you'll find, you also address the gaps. This is not, it's like having an audit. Having an audit is, the benefit of the audit is that I look at the audit issues and I will rectify them or mitigate them. Not leave that report and leave it on a shelf. So again, I cannot stress enough the continuous assessment. And even for small organizations and large ones, it's critical that you externalize services as well, because these are like specialized companies that deliver solutions and are working only on this. And they leverage also the experience that they're gaining from multiple organizations. So again, it's an investment we're doing.
And just a small question. I'm putting the hat of a micro company at the moment. Let's say I have a personnel of up to 5 people, 10 people, you know, and I might not be inclined to invest in cybersecurity because, you know, I just don't want to or anything. Is there anything these type of companies, these type of entrepreneurs can do that will at least help them have the basic solution of cybersecurity, or you would suggest, you know, just pulling your socks up and actually investing in it?
Julia, I'll be responsible if I say you need to you need to put your hand in your pocket and basically safeguard against it, because if it happens to you, then it will be too late. So there are solution providers, there are a lot of good companies as well that we will be giving you advice as well. And then it depends based on that advice. This is not something that you'll do in like 6 months or in a year. It can be also an assessment that you do over a period of time, and also your investment will also be over a period of time. It's important that we safeguard the shepherd and not the sheep. So again, these companies will be able to tell you this is a much bigger risk, so at least let's try and address this. You cannot address them all.
Yes, and in terms of the best monitoring tools, do you have some advice that that you can give our participants on what they can use?
The monitoring tools, each particular tool, there are tools which are niche, and there are organizations which cover multiple tools. This is again a balance between security and functionality. So you either go with an organizations where the tools are integrated, and maybe they will not be the best of breed, or you go for the best of breed, but then you need to do the integration yourself. The more tools that you have, the more monitoring that you have. So it's also important that you pull all the logs in a central repository, so they'll be assessed from a central monitoring tool. And so that's what's important. Otherwise, each tool comes with its own. And for smaller organizations, probably it's my recommendation is. But this depends also upon the particular cases and the particular industry, is that you go more for a holistic solution rather than the best of breed, because there you have like the integration, it's much better. Also like threat intelligence, and these software tools are also learning themselves as well and issuing patches as well and improving their software. So it's important that when you select a tool, you also look at the viability of the company, the plans of the software, how it's going to be enhanced, and the integration into a monitoring tools like an event management solution that exists also in the industry, because that will be like the central logging system where all the monitoring and all the logs of the various tools are being centralized, and you can take much better decisions. Larger organizations obviously have security operations centers as well, and they have teams of security who are monitoring the various tools as we see. And locally as well, quite a number of our organizations, you know, like the banks, obviously have this security operations center where it's the single source where all the monitoring tools are feeding, and decisions can be taken centrally.
And we have another question. What are your insights on open source software tools? Do you recommend them?
Open source, there's quite a lot of investment on open source. What is important is that, again, the open source is taken from a reputable, this is reputable open source solutions. And let's not forget that also from open sources, you need to get support also, especially in the future. but especially tools. There are also tools which are quite good, which are open source tools. Again, this is an area that you discuss with your security company as well, because they also have recommendations based on the particular organization and the particular industry. But you cannot dismiss them. Quite a lot of open source software, which is very good also and used by security people to assess the security posture of their organizations as well, attacking it from the outside. So a lot of tools in that space.
Thank you, Joseph. Unless there are any questions, I move to close the session. I don't know if you have any closing remarks, Joseph, regarding what's, just to summarize everything. I think you were very concise.
The key points that I want to raise is security is a business issue. It's not a technology issue. So the technical people and the business people need to work together to have a seamless experience as much as possible. It's not always possible, but I rather err on the security rather than and disrupt my user a little bit more. But I'm protecting at the end of the day the customer information and a lot more. That's one point. It's important also because vulnerabilities occur because software is unpatched. So I cannot stress enough the importance of patching within organizations as well, and the time that takes also to test applications, because that is the cost of patching at the end of the day. We need to remain vigilant as well. This is a continuous process. As much as we are improving our posture, also the attackers out there are also improving, and you'll be surprised how much they collaborate together to attack organizations. And last but not least, the more barriers that I have, the better it is. 100% is not possible. So let's have our business continuity plans, our disaster recovery plans, and let's have the plans in place to mitigate risk and become also a resilient organization. So if this happens to us, we know how to handle it, and we will be back on our feet in hours and not days.
Thank you for that, Joseph. Marisa, your concluding remarks. Yeah.
Thank you. Very insightful. I must say also, the more you hear about these things, the more you start to worry. And especially when you are a small organization, because as you outlined very well, for larger organizations, there are teams of people working on this. But in small organizations, the story is very different. And probably we're always too busy to give these things the required attention. So it's important that from time to time we have sessions like these, so that these issues come to the fore of our agenda, particularly when we don't have dedicated staff taking care of these issues. So thank you for that, Joseph. Thank you, Julia, for the organization. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for your input in terms of questions. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Good afternoon.